The auction. No one cared about. The market was loud. Creatures from many worlds shouted, bargained, and laughed. Bright lights flickered above, but in one dark corner, no one looked. There was a small cage made of rusted metal. Inside sat a girl, an alien girl, with pale purple skin and long silver hair covered in dust. She didn't move. She didn't speak. Her thin arms were wrapped around her knees. Her eyes, once bright, were now dull. She looked like she hadn't eaten in days. A voice shouted, 10 credits. Only 10 credits. A rare breed, cheap because she's broken. No, one came closer. She doesn't talk, won't bite, no use. The auctioneer laughed. Come on, who wants her? 10 credits and she's yours. The crowd laughed. A merchant said, I wouldn't take her even if you paid me. Others walked away. No one wanted her. She wasn't pretty anymore. She wasn't useful. She was just trash. But one man didn't laugh. He was human, tall, with a rough jacket and quiet eyes. He stood at the edge of the crowd, watching her. His name was Jalen. He had come to the market to buy parts for his ship, not a slave. But when his eyes met hers, just for a second, something in him froze. She looked like she had already died. But her heart still beat. 10 credits? He asked, stepping forward. The auctioneer blinked. Huh? You want this one? Jalen nodded. Take her then. Final sale. No refunds. The alien grinned and quickly handed him the key. The man knelt by the cage. The girl didn't look at him. She didn't flinch. She had stopped reacting to pain long ago. Slowly, Jalen opened the door. I'm not going to hurt you, he said softly. Still, she didn't move. Jalen took off his jacket and gently wrapped it around her shoulders. Come on, let's get out of here. At last, the girl moved. Just a little. She looked up, weak and confused. Her lips were dry. Her voice came out like a whisper. Why? Jalen didn't answer. He just helped her stand. She could barely walk. Her legs shook under her own weight. He carried her in his arms. The crowd stared. Some whispered, some laughed. That human's crazy, one alien muttered. Saving trash. But Jalen didn't care. He walked through the market with the girl in his arms, past bright stalls and cruel eyes, until they reached his small ship. He set her gently on a soft bench inside. She looked around, too tired to speak. Do you have a name? Jalen asked. No answer. He sighed. That's okay. You don't have to talk right now. He went to the ship's kitchen and returned with a cup of warm broth. Drink this slow and easy. The girl stared at the cup. She didn't trust it. But after a moment, she took it in shaky hands and sipped. Her lips trembled. She whispered, Tastes real. Jalen smiled a little. It is real. He didn't ask what had happened to her. He didn't ask where she came from. He didn't ask why no one wanted her. He could already guess. She was young, maybe just a teen in her face. Her arms were marked with scars, old and new. Her hair had been pulled, chopped in some places. Someone had tried to destroy her beauty, but they hadn't succeeded completely. The girl leaned back against the seat, still wrapped in his jacket. Her eyes slowly closed, but her body remained, tense as if she expected to be hit at any second. Jalen sat nearby. You're safe now, I promise. She didn't reply. Outside, the stars were rising. The market behind them grew quiet. But in Jalen's ship, something small and quiet had just started. A flicker of hope. The girl hadn't smiled. She hadn't spoken more than 2 words. But she had taken the soup. She hadn't pulled away from his hand, and Jalen knew. She was not broken. She was hurt, she was scared, but she was still alive. And for the first time in what felt like forever, someone had seen her, not as a thing to be sold, but as a life worth saving. The man who paid the price. The ship flew quietly through the stars. Inside, the girl lay asleep on a small bed. Her face was calm, but her hands were still clenched, even in her dreams. She didn't trust sleep. Not yet. Jalen sat near the control panel watching the screen, but his mind was on her. He didn't even know her name. She hadn't told him. Maybe she didn't remember it. Maybe it was taken from her. He sighed. What did they do to you? Suddenly the ship beeped. A call came through. He tapped the screen. A rough alien face appeared. You bought her? Seriously? Jalen didn't answer. You must be desperate, human, the alien laughed. That girl's been through 6 masters. Useless. No memory. No skills. Just sits like a rock. But hey, good luck. The screen went dark. Jalen stared at it for a long second. Then without saying a word, he turned it off. Hours passed. The girl woke slowly. She looked around, eyes scanning every corner. When she saw the man sitting nearby, her body tensed again. But he didn't move toward her. He just nodded once and stood up. I made food. She didn't answer, but the smell pulled her toward the small table. She moved slowly like a ghost. She sat across from him. A warm plate sat in front of her. Simple food. Real food. She touched it, unsure, then looked at him. Her voice was dry and low. You're not keeping me? Jalen paused. No. You're not my property. Then why buy me? Her eyes narrowed. People don't just help. I didn't want to see you die in a cage, he said. That's all. Her hands trembled as she picked up a piece of bread. You'll get bored. Then you'll throw me out. No, he said firmly. I won't. She didn't believe. Him not yet. Later that day, Jalen landed the ship at a small outpost, just a quiet repair station on a rocky moon. He needed fuel and supplies. As they stepped outside together, people stared. That's the girl from Sector 9's auction, someone whispered. I heard she bites, another said. The girl heard it all. She lowered her head, but Jalen kept walking beside her. An old alien woman near the fuel pump looked at her and spoke kindly. Child, are you safe? The girl was silent. Jalen replied, She's with me. The woman smiled, nodded, and walked away. The girl whispered, Why didn't you say I was your slave? Because you're not. Her eyes filled with something close to confusion, or maybe pain. They returned to the ship, bags in hand. As Jalen sorted through supplies, the girl stood near the window, watching the stars. After a while, she spoke again. My name was Scylla. Jalen looked up, surprised. Scylla, he repeated softly. That's a good name. She nodded, then said quickly, You don't have to call me that. I will, he replied, unless you want something else. Scylla didn't respond, but for the first time she didn't flinch when he came near. That night a noise woke Jalen. He walked into the main room and saw Scylla sitting in the corner, knees to her chest. She was shaking. Bad dream? He asked gently. She didn't look at him. I used to be pretty, she whispered, before they broke me. Jalen sat down beside her, not too close. You still are? She laughed, bitter, dry. Liar. I'm not, he said. But even if you weren't, beauty's not what makes someone valuable. No one else thought that. I'm not everyone else. Scylla looked at him. For a moment, something flickered in her eyes. Hope? No, not yet, but something close. In the morning, Jalen gave her an old tablet. You don't have to talk, but if you want to write anything, memories, thoughts, you can. She held the tablet like it might explode. Why are you doing this? She asked. Why me? Jalen thought for a moment. Because I've been broken before too, he said. I know what it's like when the world decides you're worthless. But they were wrong about me, and they're wrong about you. Scylla didn't reply, but when Jalen turned away, she sat at the table and began to write. Her body healed, but not her soul. Days passed, then weeks. Scylla no longer looked like the girl from the cage. Her skin was cleaner now. The bruises had faded. Her hair, once tangled and matted, was soft and brushed. She wore clean clothes. She ate regular meals. Her thin arms slowly filled out with strength. Her body was healing. But her eyes, they stayed the same. Empty. Jalen noticed it. Every time she smiled, it didn't reach her eyes. Every time she laughed, rare and quiet, it ended in silence. Deep down, she was still afraid. She never sat with her back to the door. She flinched at sudden sounds. She never closed both eyes when she slept. She was healing, but she wasn't free. One evening, Jalen returned from town with a new coat for her. It was soft and thick, something warm for cold planets. Silas stared at it. For me? Jalen nodded. You've earned it. I didn't do anything. You survived, he said. That's everything. She hugged the coat to her chest. Not wearing it, just holding it, like something fragile. Her voice was quiet. Will you leave me? If I can't be fixed. Jalen sat down beside her. You're not broken, Sila. She looked down. That's not what they told me. They were wrong. She didn't answer. But she didn't argue either. That was something. That night, Sila had a nightmare. Jalen heard her scream through the thin walls of the ship. He rushed to her room. She sat up in bed, breathing hard, eyes wide with fear. Tears rolled down her cheeks, but she didn't notice them. Get away, she whispered. Don't touch me. Jalen froze. He raised his hand slowly. It's me, Sila. You're safe. She blinked. Her breathing slowed. She looked around the room like she was seeing it for the first time. I thought I was back there, she said, her voice cracking. You're not, Jalen said. You're here. With me. He didn't move closer. He just stayed in the doorway like a quiet guard. Sila wiped her tears with shaky hands. I used to pray for someone to hear me, someone to save me, but no one came. I'm sorry I was late, Jalen said softly. Sila stared at him. Something deep inside her began to melt. The next day, Jalen took her to a quiet field on a green planet. The sky was blue. Flowers danced in the wind. Sila stood still for a long time. Her hands reached out and brushed the soft petals. This place, it's beautiful. It is, Jalen said. Like you. Sila shook her head. You're wrong. No, he replied. I just see what you don't yet. Sila looked away, embarrassed. But her hand didn't let go of the flower. Later, back on the ship, Jalen was repairing a panel. Sparks flew. It was simple work, but time-consuming. Sila stepped forward. Can I help? He looked up, surprised. You sure? She nodded. I want to do something out, not just sit. Jalen smiled. Okay, hold this tool here, tight. She did. Her hands were steadier than he expected. As they worked, something passed between them. Not words, not looks, but trust. Quiet and slow, like two rivers meeting after a long journey. That night she gave him the tablet he had gifted her. I wrote something, she said. He opened it. On the screen was a short message. Thank you for seeing me. Not as a thing. Not as a slave. Just me. Sila. Jalen closed the tablet and looked at her. She wasn't crying. She wasn't smiling. But for the first time, her eyes didn't look empty. They looked alive. The first word. The sun was setting on a quiet world. Soft orange light filled the sky, and the ship rested near a riverbank. Jalen sat outside repairing a power core. Sila sat not far from him, her legs crossed, staring at the water. It was peaceful. For the first time, there was no fear in the air, but there was still silence. They hadn't spoken much in days, not because they were angry, but because Sila didn't know what to say. She watched the fish swim in the river, felt the wind in her hair, and thought about a life she never believed she'd live. And then, suddenly, she spoke. Why? The word came out so soft it could have been the breeze. Jalen looked up from his work, surprised. He waited. Sila didn't look at him. Her eyes were still on the water. Why do you care? She asked again, louder this time. Why didn't you walk away like the others? Jalen stood slowly, walked over, and sat beside her. He didn't answer right away. He watched the river too. Then he said, Because I've seen what happens when no one cares. Scylla turned her head, meeting his eyes. You? He nodded. I wasn't sold in a cage like you, but I was forgotten. Left behind in a war zone. Everyone thought I was dead. No one came back for me. Scylla blinked. But you got out. Someone found me. Someone who didn't have to care did. They carried me through fire. And now, I try to do the same. Scylla didn't speak for a long time, then she whispered, I waited a long time for someone to care. I know. Later that night, the ship rested under the stars. Inside, Scylla stood in front of a mirror. She touched her cheek. Her skin was still marked, but the wounds were fading. She opened a drawer and found a small clip, a hairpin Jalen had brought from the last outpost. She'd ignored it before. Tonight, she picked it up and placed it in her hair, not to look pretty for someone else, just for herself. The next morning, Jalen found her already awake. She was reading from the tablet. Her voice was low, careful. Ship parts, core engine, microwire. She stopped when she saw him. I'm practicing. Jalen smiled. You want to be an engineer? She shrugged. I want to learn something, be useful. You already are. Scylla looked away, but he saw the smile pulling at her lips. Later that day, a group of travelers visited the outpost nearby. One of them, a merchant with sharp eyes, recognized Scylla. That girl, he whispered to Jalen. She was owned by some very bad people. They'll want her back. She's not theirs, Jalen replied. They won't care. I do, Jalen said coldly. Let them come. Scylla overheard it all. She said nothing. But that night she asked Jalen to teach her how to fly the ship. Days turned into weeks. Jalen taught her wiring, basic ship systems, how to read star maps. She learned fast. She worked hard. But at night, she still sat alone sometimes, quiet and distant. One night he joined her on the roof of the ship. They looked at the stars together. She pointed at one. What's that one called? That's Velatris 3. Has blue oceans and floating mountains. She pointed to another. He named it. Scylla whispered, Do you think someone out there ever saw Hirtium when I was still in the cage? Jalen turned to her. I think I did, even before I was there. Scylla looked at him. You didn't even know me. I know you now, he said, and I'd do it all again. Her eyes filled with tears, but this time she didn't hide them. The next morning, she stood in front of the mirror again. She placed the hairpin neatly, tied her jacket, and stepped into the cockpit. She didn't wait for Jalen. She started the ship. He came running in, surprised. You flying today? She grinned. Let's go somewhere with more stars. And with that, Scylla, once the broken, silent girl in a cage, lifted the ship into the sky. Her hidden strength. The ship soared through space, guided by Scylla's hands. Her fingers moved across the controls with care, her eyes sharp and focused. Jalen sat beside her, arms crossed, a proud smile on his face. You've got talent, he said. Scylla didn't look away from the stars. I like the feeling. Flying forward. Jalen nodded. No chains. No cage. Just sky. She smiled a little, one of her real ones. The kind that reached her eyes now, but peace in the stars never lasted long. A signal came through. Static at first. Then a voice. Loud. Cold. Scylla. We know where you are. She froze. Jalen leaned in. Who is that? The voice continued. You are property of the Dren Syndicate. Return now or the human dies. Jalen's face darkened. Ignore it. But Scylla was trembling. They found me. Jalen grabbed her hand. They don't own you anymore. But they think they do. They always do. She stood up, pacing. Her breath grew fast. "I don't want you to get hurt," she said. "They'll come. They'll burn everything just to take me back." Jalen stepped in front of her. "Then we stand together." They landed on a rocky moon. Quiet, remote. Jalen began preparing defenses. He checked old weapons, boosted the ship's shields. He was calm, focused. Scylla, however, was silent. She stared at a tool for hours. Then, without a word, she picked it up and started building something. That night the enemy came. 3 small ships glowing red, sharp angles, fast engines. Dangerous. Scylla didn't run. She stood beside Jalen at the edge of the cliff, wind blowing through her hair. "I used to beg them to let me go," she said. "They laughed, said I was weak, said I'd always be nothing." She turned to him. "Let me prove them wrong." "You already have," Jalen said, but she walked forward anyway. As the ships landed, armed soldiers stepped out. They wore black armor, their faces hidden. The leader pointed. "Return her, now." "No," Jalen said. The leader laughed. "We weren't asking." Scylla stepped between them. She raised something small and metal, glowing blue. "A device. I built this from scrap," she said. "Your ships run on old code. Weak shields." She pressed a button. The enemy ships sparked, then shut down completely. The soldiers froze. Scylla's voice was calm, strong. "I'm not your property. I'm not broken, and I'm not afraid." One of the soldiers took a step toward her. She didn't flinch, but Jalen raised his blaster. "Try it," he warned. The soldiers hesitated. The leader looked around. No backup, no escape. "Fine," he spat. "She's not worth the fuel anyway." They left. Just like that. Later, as the night returned to silence, Scylla sat alone near the ship. The wind was cold, but she didn't notice. Jalen brought her a drink. Sat beside her. "You okay?" She nodded slowly. "I didn't know I could be that strong." "You were always strong," he said. "You just didn't have the space to show it." She looked up at the stars. "They'll come again someday." "Maybe," Jalen said, "but next time we'll be ready." She leaned against his shoulder. "I want to protect others too, like you did for me." "You will." And in that quiet moment, Scylla, once a girl who couldn't even lift her head, felt something powerful growing inside her. Not fear, not sadness, but purpose. Worth more than gold. The stars looked different now, not because they had changed, but because Scylla had. She stood at the ship's window every night, not in fear, but in thought. She watched galaxies swirl and comets dance, and she no longer felt like a ghost watching from behind glass. She felt alive. She felt real. Jalen had noticed the change. Her steps were firmer, her voice stronger. She laughed more now. Small, quiet laughs that filled the silence between them. But the galaxy didn't forget so easily, and neither did the ones who once called her worthless. At a trade post in Sector 11, Jalen and Scylla stopped to refuel. It was a busy station, filled with merchants, mercenaries, and shady dealers. As always, eyes followed Scylla wherever she walked. But now, she looked back. They visited a stall to get parts. The merchant, a greedy alien with yellow eyes, froze when he saw her. "I know that face," he said. "You're the girl from the auction." Scylla didn't flinch. "Not anymore." He laughed. "You sold for 10 credits. Less than a broken cleaning bot." Jalen stepped forward, but Scylla touched his arm. "Let me." She turned to the merchant. Her voice was calm. "And now I stand here free, strong, and not for sale. Tell me, who looks foolish now?" The merchant's smile vanished. Scylla picked up what she needed, placed the correct credits on the counter, and walked away without another word. The other customers watched in silence. Jalen caught up beside her. "You didn't even raise your voice." "I didn't need to," she said. Back at the ship, Jalen was quiet. "What are you thinking?" Scylla asked. that I've never seen anyone grow this much, this fast. I was buried for too long, she replied. Now I want to catch up. Jalen chuckled. You're more than caught up. Scylla leaned back in her chair. They called me worthless. Broken, less than dirt. But you saw something. I don't even know what. I saw someone who needed a chance, Jalen said. And now, I see someone who inspires others. Soon, word spread across nearby systems. Whispers about a girl who once sold for 10 credits. A girl who shut down 3 syndicate ships with a homemade device. A girl who stood beside a human and refused to kneel. Now powerful buyers offered something shocking. Credits. Lots of them. Bounties were placed, not to capture her, but to buy her. One message offered 100,000 credits. The ship received it while they drifted through quiet space. Scylla stared at the screen. They're offering a fortune, she said. Jalen didn't even blink. He deleted the message. You're not for sale. She turned to him. That's a lot of money. I'd burn a galaxy before I traded you. Scylla didn't smile. She looked serious. Then quietly said, Thank you. But with those offers came danger. Hunters. Greedy. Collectors. A few followed their ship through space, thinking Jalen would give her up if the price was right. They were wrong. One group caught up to them at a lonely mining moon. Their ship was large, heavily armed. The message was clear. Give us the girl, you'll be rich, or we'll take her. Scylla stood at Jalen's side. Let me handle this. Scylla, I'm not hiding, she said. Jalen stepped back. She walked into the open holding a small cube, the same kind she had built before. The bounty hunters laughed at first, but when she spoke, they stopped. You want to own me? Again? She said. You think a high price makes you powerful? She activated the cube. Their ship's engines shut down instantly. Scylla stood tall. You'll leave now, or I'll strip your ship down to dust from orbit. They scrambled to restart their systems. One looked terrified. She's not a girl. She's a weapon. No, Scylla said. I'm just someone who got a second chance. They fled. Later on the ship, Scylla sat alone. Jalen brought her tea. You okay? She looked up. They were going to pay so much for me, after they once sold me for nothing. Jalen nodded. Because now they're afraid of your worth. She whispered. But you saw it when it was invisible. He sat down beside her. You were never broken, Scylla. You were hidden, like gold buried in the ground. She looked at him, eyes full of emotion, and finally said, Then you were the one who dug me out. A new beginning together. The ship landed softly on a planet covered in green fields and golden skies. No cities, no crowds, just peace. Scylla stepped out first. She took a deep breath. The air was clean, the wind was warm, and for the first time she didn't feel like a shadow in someone else's world. She felt free. Jalen followed behind, carrying a bag of tools. You sure about this place? He asked. Scylla turned and smiled. It doesn't have cages. That's all I need. They walked up a small hill together where an old building stood, half broken, half hidden by vines. A perfect place to rebuild, not just the house, but their lives. The next few days were busy. They worked together, clearing land, fixing walls, repairing the roof. Scylla learned fast. She didn't wait to be told what to do anymore. She made decisions. She laughed when things broke. She made fun of Jalen when he fell off the ladder. One evening, after hours of work, they sat on the steps of the rebuilt porch, watching the stars rise above the trees. Scylla leaned back, hands behind her head. This feels like home. Jalen looked at her. It is. She turned to him. You gave me this. He shook his head. No, I just opened the door. You walked through it. Visitors came weeks later, travelers, a lost girl and her father, a wounded soldier, a refugee with nothing but a broken bag. And Scylla helped them all. She gave food, a blanket, directions, kind words. Jalen watched from the side, realizing something. Scylla wasn't just surviving anymore. She was leading. One night, as they stood watching a distant meteor shower, Jalen handed her something small, a thin chain. At the end of it, a tag. Not a slave tag, but something new. He had crafted it himself. It read, Scylla, free, strong, seen. She held it in her palm for a long time, then put it around her neck. I don't know what I am yet, she whispered. You don't have to, Jalen said. You just have to keep becoming. A few days later, a merchant ship landed nearby. The crew came to trade supplies, and one of them, an alien woman, recognized Scylla. Her eyes widened. Is it true? You were sold for 10 credits? Scylla looked at her calmly. Yes, the merchant laughed. And now look at you. You must feel like a queen. Scylla smiled, but not out of pride. Out of peace. I don't need to feel like a queen, she said. I just feel like myself. The merchant didn't understand, but Jalen did. That night, Jalen was in the garden, working on solar panels. Scylla came out holding 2 cups of tea. She handed him one and sat beside him in the grass. You know, she said, I used to think I was a thing, a tool, a price tag. Jalen looked at her. Now I know, she continued. I was just waiting for someone to see me as a person. You were always a person, he said softly. She sipped her tea, then without looking at him said, And I think I love you. Jalen froze, then slowly smiled. I know, he said. Me too. They didn't say anything else that night. They didn't need to. They just watched the stars together, 2 souls no longer lost, no longer broken, just beginning. The end.